This is modeling software, Blender, great program by the way, and this is what it looks like when I create a new body part. In this case it's a new leg, inspired by, yes, kangaroos. But with the procedural walking system in the game right now, this won't look good. And this is another leg, probably the most requested body part ever, inspired by insects. And here too, the procedural walking system cannot support it. Let me tell you how I got from here to here and from here to an entirely new update about... For those of you new here, this is evolution simulation game The Sapling, my solo indie game project. There are scenarios tasking you to design an ecosystem that meets specific requirements, but there's also a sandbox where you can build your own algae, plants and animals, turn on random mutations and see how they evolve. Okay, an entirely new update about just one theme this time, but again told in 6 devlogs. So let's turn off this computer and go to a place with a bit more nature. So I can tell you about simulating nature on a computer. We start with a revision of the procedural walking system, because that is what makes a lot of cool new stuff possible. The system we have right now was actually the topic of the very second devlog on this channel, and it has remained basically unchanged since then. It had its problems, but these were not super noticeable as long as the animals walked on flat terrain. So I solved this by making sure animals couldn't walk on steep terrain, which created interesting barriers for the simulation as well. But many players have noticed, some real-life animals can actually walk on steep terrain, like the sticky feet of the gecko or the hooves of the mountain goat. So by improving and extending the procedural walking, I could get a whole new category of legs and mountain ecosystems. That idea is just too exciting for me not to do it. But I did something else first. Over the years as a game developer, I've learned that the quickest way to improve the overall quality of something is to make the iteration time way shorter. So I made a special mode to debug the procedural walking system. When activated, this loads the latest save file immediately when starting the game, already saving me several clicks, but of course I make sure that this save file contains a few pre-made animals. Next, this walking debug mode makes sure that these animals do not need rest or food and do not reproduce. Instead, they walk to a goal that I can move around and they display debugging objects like where the targets for the feet are. So, with this in place, I made lots of tiny tweaks to make the thing more robust. And, most notably, making sure the animal is always rotated to align with the terrain. Another example of polish in the walking system is that now, besides the legs, also the heads and tails of the animals are moving while the animal walks, making the whole thing look less stiff and more natural. To figure out how this should work, I did an extensive study of how changing the creature changes the walking animation in Spore-inspired adventure game Adapt. The game already had a system to automatically detect tails based on the position of the limbs used by the swimming animation. I've now also added a neck detection system and made sure the walking system is aware of this so they can slowly go up and down when the animal moves. To celebrate and also to make the transition between this and this leg a bit smoother, I have added this new leg, of course inspired by dinosaurs. Okay, a more stable base, let's extend, starting with hopping. Like I showed before, this could be useful for kangaroo legs or perhaps these legs. But actually I wanted to add hopping when I added these legs 4 updates ago. In normal walking, the procedural animation measures the distance between the target and the front feet, and if this distance is too large, the animal will start a walking cycle where all feet move one by one. When hopping, instead, they all move together like this. If the distance is still below the threshold, the animal will use this time to squat down, preparing for the next hop. Squatting is actually more complex than you might think, because it means the whole body moves downwards, but the knees should bend in a way so the feet stay in the same place. This technique is called inverse kinematics, and it basically involves a lot of math to calculate all required angles. Alright then, the moment you've probably been waiting for. many players have noted that the mouth tree for arthropods, like insects and spiders, is much further developed than the limb tree. This was on purpose because I wanted to do all procedural walking in one go.
The time has come.
For animation, the most important thing about arthropod limbs is that they are not below the body, like basically all legs currently in the game, but to the side. Conveniently, having support for limbs to the side also solves another problem in the game, which is that the transition for vertebrate legs from primitive to below the body was quite abrupt. In real life, the first land vertebrates also had legs to the side, and most reptiles still do. So besides the insect legs, we can now also have these, and I already mentioned the gecko feet. But for both groups, how would procedural walking work for legs besides the body? After a lot of experimentation, I've arrived at an embarrassingly simple solution. Before, inverse kinematics rotated the shoulder joint around this axis, now it rotates around this axis. So whenever the system calculates angles to get the feet at a certain place, it just uses another axis to get there. That's it.
Before I tell you what that looks like in the game, one thing about the new update. You're probably wondering what it's about. I started the previous season with the game's main melody and then transformed it into something scary to tell you all that the update would be about scary stuff. I really like that approach, music as communication, so let's try that again. But this time I will not tell you what the update is about. See if you can figure it out on your own.